When you don't take time to look at it through other people's eyes. Take some time and reflect on what you believe in your soul. Cause that is the key to life. You gotta let the negativity go.
Welcome to What the Fox podcast, where your two hosts, Lindsay Fox and Amber Ross, deconstruct social norms to build better lives. Our goal is to encourage the evaluation and overall utility of social norms through invitational rhetoric. We want to shed light on new perspectives by introducing you to new conceptualizations of unpopular insights and unseen, unheard words of wisdom shared by everyday people who have marched to the beat of their own drum. We developed this podcast with an understanding that social norms are only as normal as you make them. Society tells us how we should behave or respond to the world around us, and we're here to talk about what's working and what's not. Hi, my name is Lindsay Fox, and like many of you, I grew up with my own version of what I identified as normal. As I got older, I learned that I had been exposed to a lot of toxic traits, patterns, and beliefs that my social realm had identified as normal. I didn't learn to question these things until later in life, and it wasn't until I started asking why and challenging the norm that I began to realize how much oppression derives from social norms. As a trauma-informed therapist, life coach, and advocate, I believe I have a social responsibility to lean into the discomfort of these conversations by asking what the actual is going on in our society. So here we are. Welcome to What the Fox podcast, where we create a safe space to question norms and give rise to silenced voices. Of note, this podcast is for educational purposes only. We invite you to listen with an open mind.
Hello, What the Fox podcast listeners. I am thrilled that you've chosen to check out our podcast. My name is Amber Ross, and I am one of the hosts here with just a brief warning, maybe not a warning, but just a piece of information. This first podcast you're getting ready to listen to, our maiden voyage, the audio is not perfect. I know, bizarre to release a podcast where the audio is less than perfect, but one of the truths that Lindsay and I hold hard and fast to is that we allow ourselves to show up perfectly imperfect in every area of our lives, which means we are going to learn and grow and get better with each and every episode that we record for you folks. We are going to continue to innovate and bring amazing content. And we hope that you find value. We hope that you learn something, and we hope that you have a little fun along the way. So please bear with us in this first episode. The chemistry was too good to pass up. The information was too good to pass up. So we are releasing this to you, our very first episode, and we hope that you love it. We look forward to sharing more with you in the coming months. And without any further ado, here is episode 1 of the What the Fox podcast with Lindsay Fox and Amber Ross.
All righty. We got the ball rolling today.
Finally, goodness.
I know. So today is our first day actually launching this podcast, What the Fox, right? Round of applause.
Round of applause.
It's been in the making for a long time, so glad to finally get this launched. So my name is Lindsay Fox, and my co-host,
I'm Amber Ross.
We are actually going to be working on this podcast together to really dive into social norms, social constructs, and completely deconstruct them. Really, this conversation evolved as Amber and I were just talking about how, as women, it's so hard to kind of find that balance of figuring out what it means to kind of stay true to ourselves versus staying comfortable based off of the social norms and expectations. So whether that means what it means to be a woman, a parent, a female employee in the workplace, you name it, but there's a lot of pressures that come with that. And then kind of figuring out like, how do we kind of meet those standards, but also staying true to ourselves?
Well, and let's be real. We both kind of like to poke the bear a little bit and ask the hard questions, right? Like,
I mean, I think that's what we're both really good at.
I do think that's one of the things that's brought us together. And I'm excited for this podcast because now we can share that with other people. Because I think in my heart of hearts, you and I are not the only two people on this earth who are questioning all the things and who would like to
Mm-mm.
know and pull at the strings to figure out, why is this expected? Why is this the norm? What
Yeah.
caused this? And is it something that I can change? Or does it fit for how I want to live?
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess, something to add a little context here is that I am a cognitive behavioral therapist, a trauma-informed cognitive behavioral therapist. So my focus is working with clients um, around addressing self-limiting beliefs and kind of how to change that. But through that process, we look at the origins of these things. How did these things come about? What kind of laid that foundation for the thinking errors that ultimately shaped who we are today, or kind of serves as like a filter, or that kind of blocks us from being able to manifest what we really want out of life. Um, it's something that I see every day with my therapy clients, but as a result, I've noticed like this isn't really something that's just needs to be talked about in the context of therapy. I mean, this is something that we could all benefit from with regard to kind of exploring how our self-limiting beliefs might even derive from some of these social constructs.
Yeah,
So
absolutely. And I see the same thing as a health and wellness coach. I mean, it's a constant battle of, are the goals you're setting because someone told you that should be your goal? Or is it something that's relevant to you? Is it something that helps your lifestyle? Is it something that gives you energy or allows you to do something that's meaningful to you, versus is it just something you saw on a magazine cover and like that's what society tells you should be chasing down? So I
yeah.
think coming at it from an intuitive space, coming at it from an intellectual space, and also just recognizing how omnipresent they are in our day-to-day lives and we don't realize it.
Look at that word choice. I love it. We use big words on this podcast. We also
uh,
might drop the occasional F bomb, so that should
it is
also kind
possible.
of yes,
Big words and little words. They
yes,
all they all have value.
yes, they do. And I have to be honest. I might drop a few of the curse words here and there, so I don't know what that means. The podcast will be rated as. Maybe R.
Probably.
We will
It's
be
a safe
talking
bet.
about some hard topics.
We will be
Um,
touching on hard topics. Probably not a podcast to listen to with your kids in the back seat, right?
yeah,
Like,
yeah, probably
and
not.
good to know up front.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Also, that's something else I think should be emphasized, that Amber here is a mother of two
Yeah.
beautiful kids. And so that's some good insight that I think that you'll be able to contribute as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And no topic is really off limits here. I mean, I think I can speak for both of us when I say that we want to create a safe space where growth can happen and where we can talk about things previously seen as taboo and kind of break that open to see what's relevant, what's not relevant, and how we can move forward.
Yeah, absolutely. I could not agree more. And I think a big thing is about, in terms of discussing this, is like, what is a social construct? What does that look like? What does that mean? And it's exactly what it sounds like, to be honest. So it's really something that we are looking at as um, what we are identifying as the norm in the area where we currently are located. So it can vary from country to country, state to state, town to town, you name it. But it also differs across a number of different entities, whether that be government, race, gender, any kind of, I'm thinking about like marriage and family, especially like I'm actually someone who's going through a divorce right now. Amber is happily married with two children. I do not have children. So we have a lot of different perspectives to throw
Yeah,
out there.
I
Likewise,
agree.
when we look at like organized religions, overall, the topic of deviance, these are all kinds of topics that we've discussed at length that we can throw out in different podcasts in future. But they're all topics that I think we need to start asking more questions about, in terms of like, why are we kind of normalizing this thing? Or should we be looking at this through a different perspective and a little bit outside of the box? Um,
Absolutely. And I think the one of our objectives here, right, is to educate. One of our objectives is to kind of break apart, not necessarily that we have all the right answers, not necessarily that like our decisions and our opinions are, what should be followed by
Lord, no.
everyone, but I think in a lot of cases, just to present an alternative opinion, because even between you and I, we play devil's advocate against each other because while we do agree on a lot of topics, we're also able to see and argue the opposite side, right? So I think
With love.
with love, always, yes. None of this is designed to create shame or guilt or any of that. It's seriously like
Au
just
contraire, it's actually just to do the opposite of that.
absolutely, yes. And look at you with the words. I see you. I think it's important. We're gonna have fun. You folks have hopefully realized that this is not one of those snooze fest podcasts. That's not our goal. We are slightly goofy, lots of fun, but we will be touching on things that might make you a little uncomfortable. And I think lean into that. Don't turn it off just because we say something that perhaps you don't agree with. Sit and listen to an opposing viewpoint because I think that's how we learn and I think it's how we grow. And it
Yeah.
could strengthen your opinion or it could show you where differences can sneak in, right?
Absolutely. And that's something too, is that you can anticipate that there will definitely be guest speakers that we'll have on different topics, which I really look forward to just because there's so many wonderful differing viewpoints that can be brought to the table on different topics that we've mentioned already. Um, but already, yeah, I'm just thinking about a number of people who are, whether, psychologists or maybe someone who's a specialist with, you were just talking about fitness, a particular coach of some kind to come in and talk about some of these topics, I think is great because they're hearing,
Mm-hmm.
these are the people who are hearing some of the feedback day in and day out. Same with like politicians, they are hearing the feedback day in and day out about what's going on in different communities. So their version of a norm is very different than ours, depending on what the topic or the situation is that we're dissecting.
I think that's true. And it calls into account the perspective, right? Because you have an
Yeah,
individual experience as you walk through life. So your viewpoint and perspective of a norm may differ from someone else's just based on experience, based on career path, based on location where you were raised. So hopefully we can bring a little bit of all of that into this podcast and keep it fun, keep it. I'm not going to promise that we'll always be lighthearted. We might touch on some things that do pull at your heartstrings or pull at your brain or make you think. That's kind of one of the goals here because if we stop thinking, we stop growing. And we want to create a place where we can do this together and kind of challenge some of the age old thought processes that
that's
exist.
right. That's right. I definitely agree. So, with that being said, I would actually like to do a little call to action for folks to follow us on Instagram as well, just because you can get to know us individually and just sort of what we do. My Instagram handle is at Lindsay the Life Coach. That's Lindsey, the Life Coach. I only say I had to spell it because people spell Lindsay all the time with like an A. I'm like,
It's
I just am not an AY person. Sorry, guys.
That is hilarious. And
Well,
yes, you can
speaking
follow
of,
me as well. I am at one, the number one, dare, the number two, dream. So it's at one, dare to dream on Instagram. And also would encourage y'all to follow us on our podcast Instagram page.
that is correct. What the Fox podcast.
What
That
the
would be,
Fox podcast.
that's right. I'm sorry, but I had one of those ADHD moments there whenever I was mentioning the spelling of my name. Speaking of social constructs, I was named after a man named Lindsay.
Were you really? I didn't know
Yeah,
that about you.
yeah, just a random what the Fox fact.
I love that so much. And I think today our goal was to share with you a little bit about us, a little bit about what you can expect from us, and just to kind of get to know you. I do want to take a little time to have fun because Lindsay did something last weekend that I've been dying to talk with her about, and I'd like to use some time here. Miss Lindsay, you
Yes,
and
ma'am.
Lulu had an epic photo shoot last weekend, and I've not gotten a chance to talk with you about that, but you look like you had more fun than Lulu, first of all.
I
Um,
I definitely did. I feel like I need to let people know who Lulu is.
yes, yes.
So Lulu is my 11-year-old Weimaraner, and she is the love of my life. who even though Amber has the two human children, I have one pet child who I am very proud of, and I spoil rotten.
This
So
is true.
I
I can vouch for that.
Yes, yeah. So she is, not to make this a sad thing, but she actually is currently in her end stages of life. She does have a
Mm.
brain tumor. So I have been coming up with like creative ways to basically just honor her life and in terms of like where she is and just kind of our relationship. So we had a hilarious photo shoot over the weekend of Lulu dressed up in a ton of different Halloween costumes.
I
Maybe we can
think
add
my
pictures.
absolute favorite was the one of her passed out in the taco costume next to the margarita glass because I have never felt a picture more in my entire life.
I'm gonna
That
let
was
you
gold.
know. I'm gonna show you what Lulu looks like right now, just because I feel like she totally gets this. She totally gets this. This is her in a nutshell.
Yes. Hello, Miss Lulu.
That's my girl.
She's such a
Look,
sweet
she's
dog.
she's not even waking up right now.
No, she's like, I cannot be bothered by this.
I
So I have
know.
to ask you, Lindsay, what made you decide the photo shoot, the costumes? Like, I've seen people do family photo shoots with their dogs. I've seen people like go on adventures, but I don't think I've ever seen a dog photo shoot with costumes.
Oh, well, well, with Weimaraners in general, there actually is a photographer who's very well known, who does photo shoots with Weimaraners. So I think most people would associate the dog thing with that. But it's
Okay.
a good question that you asked, because what prompted this is because I was thinking, I know that she is in her end stages of life, and I am a big believer in the fact that I think that in order to experience joy, it really starts with gratitude.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going somewhere with this, but truly
I'm
it's
along for
because,
the ride.
yeah, so it really came from a space of, I've been really sad about the fact that I know that she's coming to her end stages of life. It is sad because we never want to say bye to our fur babies. And I was thinking, in 2022, I really don't want to be thinking about all of the loss or like, all the things that aren't there, the fact that she's not there, all the first with her not being around. And I'd much rather, develop a joyful way of being able to honor her where it brings laughter and funny memories and just fun. So the photo shoot is actually it was to generate a 2022 calendar of just hilarious pictures of her living her best life and just being exactly who she is, which is a quirky Weimaraner.
I love it. She fits in very well with your household.
Okay,
And I will
thank you.
say, I know some of the listeners are listening to us audio only, so you did not get the benefit of seeing Lulu snuggled up
Oh,
in her
true.
bed. But we will make sure that there are pictures on Instagram for you to see the cuteness overload that is Miss Lulu, because she's adorable and has the sweetest disposition. Having met her a couple of times, she's
Thank
just
you, Amber.
she's a sweetheart. And I love that you did that for a calendar for the next year because, you don't know what it holds. And that'll be a nice walk down memory lane for you as the months go on.
Absolutely. And that's just it, is that I think that, in order to experience joy, we have to also be able to have a space of gratitude. And so frankly, I think that in all things in life, even whenever there's sad things or uncomfortable things, it's just you need to be able to find that silver lining and lean into that gratitude.
Absolutely.
Because that's where we will find our sense of inner peace. And so while, yeah, I'm not happy about what she's going through, I also recognize there's nothing I can do about it. So let's do something that I can focus on that is, worthwhile and gonna, bring positive moments.
Absolutely. Control what's within your wheelhouse and the rest
That's right,
just has
girl.
to fall where the chips do, right?
I call that focus on your locus. Focus on your locus of control.
I don't think I've ever heard you say that. And you
Focus on your locus.
And when you say locust, all I can see are bugs. So like,
Oh, geez.
that's where
No
my head goes.
way. I think a focus on your locus of control. That's
Focus
it.
on your locus of control. I love it. Well,
That's
I know
right.
we've done some meandering through the information. I know that we've shared a bit about ourselves and a bit about what you can expect here. Just to give you kind of a succinct way of just explaining what in the world is What the Fox, right? It's basically two ladies. We're talking about self-growth. We're talking about overcoming your past and remaking those societal standards. We're focused on releasing shame and guilt and learning to actually confidently talk about things that were previously taboo. So I think you're in store for some fun. I think we're all here to learn a little bit and maybe not take ourselves too seriously in the process.
Yeah, I like that last part. Life
Oh,
is
I
way too
appreciate it.
serious.
Yeah. I'm so grateful to have spent this time with you today, Lindsay, and I'm grateful for everybody who's listening to us. I believe that we will be releasing these on a weekly basis, so you can look for us in all the places you typically grab podcasts and on Instagram as well.
That's
Until
right.
next time.
That's right. Y'all have a great week.
Absolutely. Thank
Bye.
you. Bye.
And we all sing, everything is gonna be just fine. It's gonna fall into place. The sun is gonna set on your terrible day.